What happens when the most entitled woman in a gated community walks into a gas station, slaps her hand on the counter, and demands free fuel not as a coupon, not as a favor, but as a right she believes the HOA entitles her to? What happens when the owner refuses? She pulls out her phone and calls 911 to report a hostile business owner. And what happens when the officer, who rolls up, badge gleaming, walks inside and the business owner smiles? Because he's the one who hired every officer on that force. Stay until the end. This one gets better with every single sentence. Subscribe to HOA Conflicts because Karen just picked the wrong fight with the wrong man. Let me paint you a picture of Silverwood Pines, a pristine, overpriced, HOA-governed community sitting just outside a mid-size American city, where the lawns are always exactly 3 inches tall and the Rules Committee meets on the second Tuesday of every month without fail. It's the kind of neighborhood where residents file formal complaints about wind chimes and issue written warnings for Christmas lights left up past January 7th. It was, in every measurable way, a kingdom built on bureaucracy. My name is Arthur Vance. I spent 31 years in law enforcement, the last 9 of which I served as the chief of police for Harrison County, a jurisdiction that, yes, included Silverwood Pines and the surrounding commercial district. When I retired, I didn't sit around watching daytime television. I took my pension, my savings, and my reputation, and I bought a full-service gas station and auto shop on the corner of Highway 4 and Elmwood Avenue right at the entrance to the community. People said I was crazy. I told them I liked staying busy. Within 6 months, Vance's Auto and Fuel was the highest-rated fuel stop in the county. We had a loyal customer base, clean restrooms people actually complimented us on, and a staff of 8 I'd hand-picked and trained myself. Business was good. Life was quiet. And then Beatrice Caldwell walked through my door. Be to her inner circle, though she'd correct you publicly if you used it, was the president of the Silverwood Pines Homeowners Association, a position she had held for 6 consecutive years through a combination of aggressive campaigning, strategic intimidation of opposing candidates, and a deep, almost spiritual belief that she was the only person qualified to run anything in a 5-mile radius. She was the kind of woman who CC'd the county supervisor on noise complaints and who had a color-coded binder for every HOA bylaw ever written. People feared her. Some people respected her. Almost no one liked her. It was a Tuesday in late October. When it happened, I was behind the counter covering for my cashier, who'd stepped out for a break, reviewing a parts invoice, when the bell above the door chimed and Beatrice Caldwell walked in wearing a cream-colored blazer and the expression of someone who had never once been told no. She didn't browse. She didn't greet me. She walked directly to the register and placed both palms flat on the counter, the way people do when they want you to. Understand, they mean business. I need to discuss something with you about your pricing policy, she said, without so much as a hello. I set down the invoice. Good afternoon, Beatrice. What can I do for you? She explained. And I want to be precise here, because the specifics matter that the Silverwood Pines HOA had recently passed an internal resolution recognizing local businesses that serve the community interest. As part of this resolution, she informed me, the HOA was extending what she called a community partner recognition status to Vance's Auto and Fuel. This was, apparently, an honor. And the honor, as she described it, came with a reciprocal obligation. Complimentary fuel for HOA board members herself, the vice president, the treasurer, and 2 committee chairs on the first Monday of every month. Unlimited. No cap. Just fuel up and go, as a gesture of goodwill and partnership. I blinked. I actually took a moment because I wanted to make sure I had heard her correctly. So you want me to give free gas to 5 people every month, indefinitely, in exchange for a title I didn't apply for and don't need, I said. She smiled the smile of someone who had never genuinely considered the word no as a realistic outcome. It's a recognition, Arthur. It reflects well on your business. The HOA newsletter goes to over 300 households. Beatrice, I appreciate the thought, but I'm going to decline. The silence that followed lasted maybe 4 seconds. It felt longer. She tilted her head the way cats do before they knock something off a shelf. Not out of curiosity, but out of intention. She told me I was making a mistake. I told her I run a business, not a charity program for HOA boards. She told me she had significant influence in this community, and that businesses who didn't cooperate with the HOA tended to find things more complicated. I told her that sounded an awful lot like a threat, and that she might want to think carefully before she finished that sentence. She did finish it, she said, and I quote, "I'm going to make sure everyone in Silverwood Pines knows exactly what kind of neighbor you are." Then she pulled out her phone, right there at my counter, and dialed 911. She told the dispatcher with me, standing 3 feet away, that there was a hostile business owner at Vance's Auto and Fuel on Highway 4 who was refusing service and making threatening statements, and that she felt unsafe. She gave the address, she gave my name. She waited, phone to her ear, watching me with the satisfaction of someone who believed they had just played their ace card. 4 minutes and 22 seconds later, I know, because I checked the security footage later, a patrol car pulled into my lot. Officer Marcus Thorne stepped out. Marcus had been with Harrison County PD for 11 years. I had personally promoted him to his current rank. He gave a toast at my retirement party. He looked through the window, saw me, and I watched his expression cycle through confusion, recognition, and then barely suppressed amusement in about 1 second flat. He walked in, Beatrice straightened up, preparing to deliver her version of events with the authority of a woman who had never doubted the legitimacy of her own narrative. Before she could speak, Marcus said, "Chief Vance, is everything all right here?" The word chief landed in that room like a brick through a window. Beatrice's head turned slowly toward me. I watched her put it together, the name above the door, the man behind the counter, the title Marcus had just used without a flicker of irony. I didn't say anything. I didn't have to. Marcus was already asking her, professionally and calmly, to describe the emergency she had reported. She stumbled. She tried to recalibrate. She said there had been a disagreement about a business arrangement. Marcus asked if anyone had been threatened. She said not exactly. He asked if any crime had occurred. She said she felt the refusal was retaliatory. Marcus looked at me. I told him simply that a customer had requested complimentary fuel for herself and for associates as a standing monthly arrangement. I had declined, and she had called 911. He wrote something in his notepad. Then he looked at Beatrice and explained in the patient tone of a man who had spent a decade dealing with far more genuinely dangerous situations than this, that declining to give someone free goods was not a crime, that calling 911 for a commercial disagreement was a misuse of emergency services, and that if she had a legitimate grievance with a business, the appropriate avenue was the Better Business Bureau or small claims court. Beatrice left without another word. She walked past the pumps, got into her white Lexus, and pulled out of my lot with the rigid posture of a woman cataloging future revenge. I poured Marcus a coffee. We talked for 20 minutes about his daughter's soccer tournament. It was a genuinely nice afternoon. True to her word, Beatrice did tell Silverwood Pines about me. She sent a community newsletter item calling my station uncooperative with neighborhood initiatives and suggesting residents consider alternative fuel options that better reflect community values. What she did not anticipate was that 3 of the other HOA board members, the ones she had volunteered for the free gas arrangement without actually consulting, saw the newsletter, realized they had been enrolled in a scheme without their knowledge, and were mortified. One of them, the HOA treasurer, a retired accountant named Robert Sterling, came to the station that same week. He shook my hand, apologized on behalf of the board as an institution, bought a full tank and a car wash, and told me the internal meeting about the incident had been one of the more heated ones in recent memory. 2 other board members followed suit over the following days, not because anyone told them to, but because small communities have long memories and people talk. Within a month, the HOA newsletter, now partially edited by a newly formed transparency subcommittee, ran a short piece about responsible community partnerships that amounted to a quiet institutional rebuke of the entire initiative Beatrice had launched. She was not re-elected as HOA president the following spring. The vote wasn't particularly close. Vance's Auto and Fuel had its best revenue quarters since opening in the 3 months following the incident. I don't say that to brag. I say it because sometimes the most satisfying part of a story like this isn't the dramatic moment in the middle. It's watching the slow, steady, community-driven correction that follows when one person overreaches and everyone else quietly decides they've had enough. I've been asked by people who heard this story, and it spread the way small-town stories do, whether I felt any satisfaction in the moment Marcus walked through that door. Honestly, not the kind Beatrice probably imagined I'd feel. I felt tired. Tired that a person with genuine influence over a community had decided that influence meant she could walk into someone's livelihood and demand tribute like a medieval toll collector. Tired that 911, a service funded by taxpayers and staffed by people who work brutal shifts, was used as a personal intimidation tool. Mostly just tired of the particular brand of entitlement that convinces someone that rules apply to everyone except the person making them. But here's what I know. After 31 years in law enforcement and several years running a business in the same community, accountability has a gravity to it. You can delay it. You can dodge it for years if you're clever and well-connected. But eventually, the gap between who someone presents themselves to be and who they actually are becomes visible, and in a small community, once people see it, they cannot unsee it. Beatrice saw a gas station owner and thought she saw an easy mark. What she didn't see, that she never bothered to find out before she picked that fight, was the 31 years of service behind the counter. The badge that used to sit in a desk drawer 20 feet away, and the name every officer in the county knew by heart. If you've dealt with an HOA Karen who thought the rules didn't apply to her, drop your story in the comments below. And if you're new here, welcome to HOA Conflicts. Subscribe, hit the bell, and stick around. Every story on this channel is real. Every Karen thinks she's the exception. And every single time, the fallout is spectacular.